That briefing following that crucial moment when, for the first time in 60 long years, Kim Jong-un becoming the first North Korean leader to cross over the DMZ and enter South Korea. Let's get in some further perspectives from our senior correspondent Ramiz Ramachandran, who's joining us on the broadcast for more on that. Ramesh, we did hear to some great detail from that press briefing on the major takeaways. All eyes on that Panmunjom declaration, which is expected to be inked later in the day. Ramesh.
Indeed, good afternoon to you, Molly. The big news coming out this moment is that there will be a signing ceremony participated by both Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in towards the end of their second round of talks late afternoon here, and it will be followed by a joint press statement by both leaders. Also that Kim Jong-un's wife Ri Sol-ju will be accompanying him for the banquet, and she will be reaching at 6:15 p.m. local time. That's about 2:45 in the afternoon in India. So that's the two big news coming out of the demilitarized zone, where the two leaders met this morning in fact, that there will be a signing ceremony towards the end of the Moon Jae-in Kim Jong-un talks, followed by a joint media appearance, and also that Kim Jong-un's wife Ri Sol-ju will be arriving at 6:15 p.m. local time. Back to you, Molly.
That is when the banquet is expected, of course. So we've had a lot of optics, to say the least, Ramesh, when it comes to that handshake that took place between the two leaders. We're also getting in word of how Kim Jong-un, Ramesh, has told the South Korean leader there that he will no longer be disturbing Moon Jae-in's sleep. That, of course, is a strong indicator that he will be putting those nuclear missile tests to a rest.
Indeed, the sense one gets reading the transcript of the conversation between Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un is that they had a good banter there, some light-hearted conversation, both when they met at the demilitarized zone in the across the military demarcation line, and also in the private conversation inside the Peace House, where Kim Jong-un retorted and joked to Moon Jae-in that from now on I will not give you any more sleepless nights, referring obviously to the series of tests conducted, both missile and nuclear, by Kim Jong-un and his government over the last several years. That was one lighter moment from the discussions, Molly. The other was, we saw early this morning when Kim Jong-un literally pulled Moon Jae-in across the MDL into North Korean territory. And that happened after Moon said, when will I get to visit North Korea? And he said, now is the time, let's do it now. So he literally pulled Moon Jae-in by his hand and made him cross the MDL and then back into South Korean territory for the third Inter-Korean summit. So those are the optics that were on display this morning, Molly. But the substantive part will happen in the afternoon. And the fact that there will be a signing ceremony followed by a joint media appearance, to my mind, signifies, it denotes something substantial in the works here as we speak. Will it lead to any substantial wording or formulation of commitment on the issue of nuclear weapons? We'll have to wait and watch. But that's the sense one gets listening into the conversations and the briefing by the South Korean officials a short while ago, that there will be a signing ceremony and a joint media appearance, and that Kim Jong-un's wife Ri Sol-ju will be appearing at 6:15 p.m. here for the official banquet.
All right, stay with me, Ramesh. Also getting in further perspectives from our guests joining us in WION studio this minute, Ambassador Arun Singh and also Mr. Jaydev Ranade. Coming to you first, Ambassador, the optics, as we've been talking about, of course, speak a lot here. But the very fact that the wife of Kim Jong-un will also be visiting South Korea, will be setting foot there at 6:15 p.m. local time for that banquet. We also have the sister of Kim Jong-un being an important part of the delegation there. What does this really tell you about North Korea under Kim Jong-un?
So I think, as you mentioned, clearly adds to the optics, to the message that is being sent, because technically the two Koreas are still at war. There's only an armistice. And over the past couple of years, the present North Korean leader has raised tensions by doing a whole series of nuclear tests, ballistic missile tests, intercontinental missile tests. And after they reached a certain pitch and he saw the international reaction, sanctions, he has now taken the initiative to diffuse the tensions by first sending his sister and participating in the Winter Games in South Korea, and then agreeing to a meeting, and then talking of a meeting with President Trump. So it is clearly a part of the effort to signal that from their side they're trying to work to diffuse the tensions, and by his wife and sister joining, his sister coming now, wife joining for the banquet later, the same signaling that we are trying to diffuse the tension, take the relationship to another level, get some cooperation moving. And his eye clearly is on the summit with President Trump at the end of May or early June, and to see if he reaches there, and then what kind of agreement he's able to work out after that for further development of relations between North Korea and the US and North Korea and South Korea. So that's really the game that's going on.
I was just coming to that, Mr. Ranade, also aside from the optics, what the crucial takeaways will be, you know, in terms of that Panmunjom declaration, which is expected to be inked later in the day, as Ramesh was also pointing out. In terms of setting the ball rolling for a development in ties, because there have been none over the past few years. So, to your mind, do we expect some concrete takeaways?
Well, adding to what you just discussed, I would say that Kim Jong-un would be quite satisfied that he's negotiated hard and he's negotiated well to be able to reach this far. And I think with his wife joining at the banquet, it's sort of signaling that he is able to fit in and you know, play with the Western world the way they would like him to. So it's giving that kind of a dressing, a window dressing to the entire exercise. His sister has played a crucial role. You will recall how she was present at the meeting and she actually you know, handed over the letter, etc.
And so, during the Winter Olympics, yes.
So I think what we are seeing now is in Kim Jong-un's mind, if one could try and penetrate it, he's looking at the final lap, where he would like to have that meeting with Trump. Both sides have agreed that they would meet. I think he understands that the South Koreans are a key factor in ensuring that meeting comes about, and that is where he will focus. The China factor, of course, is there. It's in everyone's mind. But I think there would be a degree of nervousness in Beijing as to what Kim Jong-un is going to do next. Because the North Koreans, like the Chinese, have long memories. And the manner in which the Chinese have cold-shouldered them in the last couple of years would not be lost on Kim Jong-un. So I think what we are seeing now is a very interesting situation that is taking place, where all the parties are, of course, going to be involved. But I think Kim Jong-un has reasons to be satisfied so far.
And as many have been saying, this is a prequel to a sequel, which is going to be following with the meeting between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And on that point, I want to go back across to Ramiz Ramachandran, who's been getting us the very latest, tracking that development in Seoul very closely. Ramesh, this is, of course, a crucial juncture when it comes to the meeting which is expected between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and US President Donald Trump as well. So we do expect that as a part of those meetings, which will resume post-lunch, we will also be looking at the two sides discussing and is really setting the ball rolling when it comes to that meeting as well.
Indeed, Molly, and listening into the conversation you were having with our guest in the studio, Mr. Ranade and Ambassador Singh, I am tempted to add one more adjective to describe the inter-Korean summit taking place here in South Korea today. The Yonhap news agency of South Korea is describing the conversation between Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in as seismic. So that should give you a sense of how the anticipation is here in South Korea, Molly, from the looks of it. But just to give you a flavor of what actually transpired in the conversation between the two leaders, Kim Jong-un apparently went on to say that we should not go back to the drawing board, we should go forward, and that the North Korean media, also quoting Kim Jong-un, is telling Moon Jae-in that he is serious and honest about peace and prosperity on the Korean peninsula. And he also noted that on the issue of denuclearization, the spokesperson telling us not a short while ago that this issue was indeed discussed, and the fact that a serious effort is being made on this count can be had from the fact that there will be a joint press statement towards the end of the talk. So in all fairness, things seem to be looking up at the moment, but anything can go from between now and the eventual joint statement. So one has to wait and watch and hold our horses, so to speak, Molly, before we jump to any conclusions. But if the optics are anything to go by, then certainly things are looking up. And South Koreans in particular hope to gain much from this summit in terms of moving the relationship forward on the economic front in particular. Remember, after the most recent test, South Korea suspended the Kaesong industrial complex inside North Korea. Remember, this is an industrial complex which South Korean companies used to run and employ North Korean workers. Now, this has been shut down indefinitely. So expectation is that the industrial complex will reopen once again, allowing economic trade to carry on as before. Also, that unification and other issues can happen sometime going forward in the future. At least the least expect is an expression of intent on the part of both leaders to signal the intent to carry forward this momentum going forward, especially between now and the Trump-Kim meeting, which is the third angle, so to speak, or dimension of the Korean crisis. Remember, there are more than two parties with dispute here. It's not a bilateral dispute. It's not between North Korea and South Korea. There are other parties with dispute, including the U.S., and therefore one has to wait and watch as to what transpires between now and the much anticipated talks between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Remember, Trump has threatened to walk out of the meeting if he sees the talks are not going anywhere. He also threatened to cancel the summit altogether. So one has to wait and watch and read the formulation, the language contained in the joint statement to be issued later today to understand where these talks might be headed going forward.
Absolutely. Anticipation in the air, a lot of expectations as well, both from the remainder of the meetings that are set to take place between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in, and also, of course, later that meeting which will be taking place in June.